22nd, regular meeting of council. It is 5:30 p.m. and I call this meeting to order. Give you an opportunity to review the agenda. But before we do that, Chief Gowdy, I understand you've got an exciting announcement for us.
Yes, I do. My pleasure to introduce, and I'll get you to maybe come up to the mic up here just so you can be seen. This is Twyla Hale, our new manager of human resources. Twyla comes from us from Vanderhoof, BC, where she served as human resources and occupational health and safety manager of the Four Rivers Co-op. She has an extensive background as Service Commission, Service Alberta, Alberta Municipal Affairs, and Alberta Emergency Management Agency. She has worked on disasters, including the 2013 Southern Alberta floods and the 2011 Slave Lake fire, as well as many smaller events. And she served as the Human Resources Advisor in the provincial government. Twyla has a master's degree in public administration, a bachelor's degree in human resources development, her National Advanced Certificate in Local Authority Administration Level 1, and is an associate member of CPHR, which is the Canadian Practitioners of Human Resources Agency. Please join me in extending a warm City of the Departmental.
Welcome aboard, Twyla. We certainly look forward to working with you, especially for the purposes of reviewing our CAO. Wonderful. Chief Gowdy.
Mayor Creasy, I'd like to propose one additional in-camera item, a labor matter. Just an update on some policies we'll run for council. A policy update.
Thank you. So that will be item 9.2, labor item. Do you have any additional items or changes to the agenda? If not, we'll need a motion, please. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I move that we accept the agenda as amended.
Thank you. We're all good. Gary, thank you. Chief Gowdy, as far as the ordering, did we want to start with the second item or no? Just to work on through the considerations that I guess I think that would be good. And gallery. So let's go down to item 5.2 and request for decision, bylaw 400.37, the blind man tap room and the associated land use bylaw amendment. And I understand that Manager Hackett is going to be the lead on this.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Creasy and members of council. My pleasure to be here, well, virtually this evening, and present consideration of first reading of bylaw amendment 400.37, an amendment to the land use bylaw. I'm going to try to share my screen and cross my fingers that it works. Hopefully you can see some slides there. So the purpose of Land Use Bylaw 400.37 is to request an amendment to the I-2 Heavy Industrial District to adjust an existing site exception for one property located at 3413 53rd Avenue, legally described as Lot 1A, Block 5, Plan 2020112. This would allow for a larger accessory use, tap room, and seasonal outdoor patio. The property is located on 53rd Avenue, and you can see in the air photo here, it's an existing building at the corner of 37th Street and 53rd Avenue, and has access both from 53rd Avenue and 37th Street. This is a photograph of the property, home of Blind Man Brewing, taken last week facing southwest. And The next photo, also taken the same day last week, is facing southeast. So this shows the property from 53rd Avenue. The amendment is being requested by Blind Man Brewing, who are the owners of the property located in Wolf Creek Industrial Park. And they have requested or made this application to expand the allowable footprint of their existing accessory use tap room by adding a seasonal patio to grow from the current 140.45 meters squared to 200 meters squared and an additional 150 meters squared for a seasonal patio. If approved, the exception would apply only to this site, so it would not extend to all industrial I2 properties, or if Blind Man were to ever move or acquire a second location, it would not apply to those other properties. It would just apply to this site. And I'd just like to provide council with a little bit of background on the microbrewery regulations in our land use bylaw and I guess in the province of Alberta. It's kind of an interesting story because in 2013, the government of Alberta lifted restrictions on microbrewing in Alberta to be more flexible and to kind of spark that industry. And it certainly did, because by 2014, with this new flexibility, many new craft breweries, microbreweries began to operate across Alberta. And in 2015, Lacombe City Council approved adding a microbrewery definition as a use to the land use bylaw. And prior to that, it was not even contemplated in the land use bylaw. So microbreweries, major and minor, were added to various different commercial districts and as discretionary uses in the light and heavy I1 and I2 industrial districts. That same year, Blind Man Brewing made an application to open their brewery and a tap room, and that was approved. The tap room was 50 meters squared. They continued to grow, and up to 2018, they grew and expanded. And at that time, they wanted to become larger than the 50 square meters. So that led to a request for a site exception, which was approved by council in 2018 to allow for 140.45 square meters for an accessory use tap room or retail sales at their existing site. Then in 2020, they continued to grow the amount of beer produced on the property, and they shifted from being a microbrewery minor, which means producing less than 5,000 hectoliters of beer a year, up to being a microbrewery major and producing between 5,000 and 25,000 hectoliters. So that catches you kind of up to where we are today. Today, and I guess all during this time, the property is zoned I2 heavy industrial, and you can see it here with the arrow. And the purpose of the I2 heavy industrial district is to provide an area for a variety of manufacturing, warehousing, transportation related, and other industrial activities, which may in the course of normal operations create nuisance factors that are apparent beyond the property boundary or maybe escape the property, such as noise or odor. So that's the district in which a Blind Man is operating, and they're subject to the I2 district. But they're also subject to Section 810 of the Land Use Bylaw, which is entitled Food Production and Microbrewery Facilities. And so this sets out some additional regulations for microbreweries, including 810.7, which limits the accessory portion of a microbrewery when it's in an industrial area to the 50 square meters. So anything larger than that, then the 50 square meters requires a site exception. So that kind of explains to you when we thought of that timeline and they applied for the exception. Once they became larger than the 50 square meters, they required a site exception. And today they are requesting to be even larger than their current site exception. In looking certainly at the land use bylaw, but some other planning documents that are very important, the municipal development plan identifies the site as industrial lands, so it's consistent with the municipal development plan, and there is no applicable area structure plan or outline plans for this parcel. This is a photograph for council that I just wanted to show you. From the one side, you can see some of the accessory uses as they're developed today. So this is a second-story outdoor deck that I'm sure even looks better in July or August, but you can see the heaters there. You can see the staircase leading to that and some of the site landscaping as well in the front, a bike rack, which is kind of where the patio is set up during the summer season as well. So that just gives council a sense of where the tap room is and some of that accessory use on the property as it currently is. In addition to the request to have a larger floor space for accessory use, there are 3 other changes that are required to the site exception. The first is to update the legal description because the legal description has changed. The second is to clarify that the site exception for the microbrewery accessory use was approved as a permitted use. So in the bylaw right now, it says allowed, but when we go back and research Land Use Bylaw Amendment 400.12, which was the number when it was passed as a permitted use. So we really should clarify that in the I2 district. And the third one is that the brewery has shifted to a microbrewery major as opposed to microbrewery minor, as it currently is listed in the land use bylaw for the site exception. So those 3 additional changes are also part of the proposed amendment. So having said all that, the proposed amendment is that on lot 1A, block 5, plan 2020112 at 3413 53rd Avenue, an accessory use for a microbrewery major shall be a permitted use with a footprint of no more than 200 meters squared indoor, as well as a seasonal outdoor patio permitted of no more than 150 meters squared. It is also requested that council approve a public hearing to be scheduled for 6:00 p.m. on Monday, December 6th. And it is recommended that council give first reading to the bylaw amendment 400.37 as presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Hackett. Appreciate that. So for clarity, the exception that is outlined in our package, at the end, it says for the 200 meters indoor, as well as a seasonal outdoor permitted, patio permitted of no more than 150 meters. I should read that package itself, that this was in addition to, and I just wanted to make certain that that was for 150 meters squared patio total, or is that in addition to existing patio already?
Mayor Creasy, I'm sorry, I tried to stop sharing my screen and I locked myself out of the meeting totally. So if you could repeat the question, please.
Not a problem. In the site exception, you've got listed here, the outdoor patio permitted of no more than 150 meters squared. That
Yes.
seemed to be called. So that is in addition to an existing patio, and I just wanted some clarification about that.
The 150 would be total patio space, but it's in addition to an indoor tap room area of 200 meters squared. So total of 350 square meters, up from the existing 140.45 square meters.
Thank you. And because we have the proprietors here, was that your understanding, is that that was the maximum size, was the 150 meters for the outdoor patio? Very good. Councilor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I just think that mentioned that first, 1.37 as presented.
Thank you. Councilor Gullickson, I assume that was same thing, or no? Floor is yours.
I just had a procedural question. I know we can't have any discussion regarding this. Can we go to second reading tonight, or do we have to wait until after the public hearing?
I think that CAO Gowdy will have some information on the requirements for that because of the public hearing portion. Chief Gowdy?
Yeah, because it does require a public hearing.
Appreciate that clarification. Anything additional before we vote? All those in favor? That was unanimous, I believe. Very good. And We have some additional. There we go. Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I move that council schedule a public hearing for bylaw 400.37 at 6 p.m. on Monday, December 6th, 2021.
Thank you. Item. All those in favor? So be it. That's when it will be. So I expect that Manager Hackett will be in touch with you and give you a copy of all the dates and times. So there's no miscommunications there. Appreciate it. You're certainly welcome to stay, but the choice is yours. Very good. Next up is Director Piche with item 5.1, the council proceed to the bylaw amendment. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy, and good evening, Council. Tonight, I'm presenting the procedural bylaw amendment, Bylaw 370.3 of third reading for Council's consideration. On November 8th, an amendment to Bylaw 370, the procedural bylaw, was presented to Council. The amendment included changing the Council meeting start time to 5:30 p.m., introducing a consent agenda to assist with meeting efficiencies, to include the open forum as part of the regular meeting, and to have the ability to request a recess in the event a councillor requires assistance when bringing forward a notice of motion during a council meeting. After presenting that amendment, the council requested that the open forum be limited to 2 presentations in one evening, and that was added to the amending bylaw. Council also requested that administration acquires a time clock as a visible reminder for the allotted time for each presenter. And it was also requested that a brochure be created to provide information to those presenting to council for what to expect when they are going to present. The first and second reading was passed on November 8th, and this evening administration is presenting the requested changes for third reading. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Piche. With respect to 6.9 D, I think that we all know here that the maximum of 2 persons and then presentations means, but I'm afraid that might be a little ambiguous for some. Is it so 2 people can present, or is it? I just think we could be a little clearer there.
Okay.
And if in fact we do have some set of a limited number of individuals that are presenting, that's fine to include that if you so choose. But I just think this can be misinterpreted relatively easily, the way that it's worded now. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I asked questions just for CEO Gowdy. Has it ever been, I guess, in a procedural as far as something that hasn't this? I think in the past, I think we've got a little maybe too casual, I guess. And for example, I think it to be, and myself at fault too as well. But I think I think we could do better, I guess. Like men, no jeans, perhaps, and so forth. That I think we could be better presented as a group at times. I don't know. I'm just asking this. Has that been done in the past?
Not aware of it being done in the past, but if you were to look to include something, I would say that section 6.6 under meeting etiquette, and that would be the appropriate place to look for inclusion of a dress code were you to desire such a clause.
So I understand we're just going through the amended portion thereof, but I was just curious with respect to the agenda. Under 6.7, that's a new federal statute preparing meeting agendas. including input from participants, city staff, and previous meetings. And I thought before that was as approved by the mayor. Or was it not?
No, it was not. It was held to the CIO to approve the agenda.
That seems odd to me. And quite honestly, if that's the way that we've kind of been doing it that way, and anyway along improving it, that's fine. I just thought that had been in the past, and it just seems an interesting one, given this is really the only public interaction we have. I mean, the meeting is basically in the hands of council until the direction is given you. So that's interesting. And I mean, I just thought that's the way that it was in the past.
We have generally met ahead of time. It's never come up, I guess, where there's been a difference of opinion, but there was no change to that portion of the bond for this.
That's it.
Mayor Creasy, I have a question under 6.8. I don't see the inclusion of the public forum, I guess, because it now would be it would be after being called to order. So then it should be part of that template. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is an oversight. I think we were waiting for the direction to include it in the meeting, but we can definitely add that to the front end of the meeting. That's a great catch.
And that was as outlined on page 11 then? Does anyone else have anything with respect to the amendments as laid out? Chief Gowdy?
So I would just like to clarify that the direction we have received and would be including if council were to pass a third reading this evening. The direction that I would be including would be that there is a maximum of 2 presentations during the open forum, not necessarily a limit to the number of people. And then we would be adjusting the order of the meeting to include the open forum section at the
There may be a larger group that wishes to use the 5 minutes that to administration to adjust as appropriate for the room or whatever facility we're into. I think it just gets too cumbersome to try and define that. How many people? Because whatever number you put there, somebody is eventually going to want one more or whatever. So, what did you say?
I would also say that management should have 10 or a dozen people. Probably it's of an important, the issues of significant importance that you would just move to a presentation format and give them a little more time.
Councillor Hibbs.
I just have a question to follow up on Councillor Ross's. Does the city have a dress code per se in any shape or form? I can't say I've seen one, but I'm just curious. Beyond obviously that you have to be appropriately attired for your job, like PPE and all that kind of thing, but as far as appearance.
Since I looked at it, starting with restrictive dress code, if it does exist, it would be quite loose. It would be about being appropriately dressed for the task at hand. We have discussed it internally a number of times, and it is quite difficult to prescribe a uniform dress code with a workforce that varies as much as the city does. What's appropriate in one job or even for one manager's job might be totally inappropriate for another one. I think you do have the ability to put a dress code in for yourselves. I think you can do that, but it seems like it would have to be said loose. That I think crafting it would likely cause us to say we need a little bit more time to bring this bylaw back. If you do want to look at a dress code inclusion, I would not recommend passing third reading tonight. I would say defer this. Researching it and crafting something if you'd like.
Fair enough. I just wanted to know if there was one for staff, that's all. I'm actually not in supportive of adding one to the council policy for pretty much those reasons, as it's very complicated, although I do really appreciate Councillor Ross's sentiments though. So although it won't necessarily be in the bylaw. Sorry, I don't know that in that.
Anyone else? Councillor Hoekstra.
I would like to make that motion. May I make? Okay, thank you, Mayor Creasy. That council gives third reading to the procedural bylaw amendment bylaw 37.3 with the slight suggested changes from tonight.
Thank you. I don't think we need any rewording in front of us for that one item, do we? Is there anyone confident that we can? If something isn't right, we have the ability to clerical update anyway. So we're all good? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Appreciate it, Director Pichet. That was in the financial. It's fair warning for Senior Manager McKinnon that she'll be up next, and I think we're going to start out, it looks like, with item 5.3, the 2022 capital budget. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor Creasy and Council. Thank you. I'm here to present the 2022 capital budget for Council's consideration to adopt. The capital budget was first presented on September 27th and discussed in detail during the November 8th and 9th budget workshops. The revised capital budget represents a $520,000 decrease from the first draft presented in September. The adjustments made include a removal of the electric sign project, which was $115,000 decrease, a deferral of the Trinity Playground project to 2023, which was a $400,000 reduction, a reduction of fleet growth by $40,000, and a change in the recommended option for pedestrian crossing, a $10,000 increase. The total expenditure is now estimated to be $10.25 million, and the proposed budget will be funded by $7.59 million in grants, $2.5 million from reserve withdrawals, and $160,000 from other contributions. For the 2022 capital budget, a column beside each capital project on the report indicates what the financial impact will be on the operating budget. And administration is recommending the council does adopt the revised 2022 capital budget. Now, Mayor Creasy, how would you like us to proceed with the capital budget? Would you like us to go through each project one by one or by division?
The questions from council determined. I don't think we need to go too far in depth into each and every project, to be honest with you. Consideration of here or are unable to be here for our budget workshops, and I would think that we want to allow some flexibility for questions and whatnot there. But yeah, let's keep the a little more general in nature, and then if anyone has any specific questions, perhaps we'll spend a moment on that particular project and it's best interest to do each and every one. Okay. Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I do have one question. My list lines up with what was presented with the exception of one item. So project number 8800, computer and communications replacement 2022. We had discussed about how the one Lacombe Fire Services DVR for 8,000. Now I thought we had scrapped that, but I didn't see that reflected in the memo. Is that what is on the books, that has been removed? So again, that's project number 8800. The total expenses originally of 47,000, but it should be by my recollection now 39.
We have left it in with some investigation. I don't know, Director Peach, if you have any further information on that project.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what project you're talking of.
Director Piche, with respect to the DVR at the fire hall, council was under the impression that we were going to try and see if we could get a little more use out of that unit that was there, given it was tailored for that space when the police was there, and we're going to try and hold off on it.
At the fire hall, yes, we are planning on holding off on that for sure. I did speak with the IT manager, and we're gonna just limp it along until we get the new building.
Very good.
Thank you.
So we'll leave it to Senior Manager McKinney to make those minor updates. Councilor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. We just spoke to CEO Gary just before. Since the playground is MSI funded, was it discussed during budget deliberations where area you were going to direct that possible MSI grant funding if you delete the playground? And I guess the other one was later with our tax rate increase graph, it was 1.8% for 2023. 2025 was 1.8, and then 2026 is 1%. But we've had an excellent year this there, which is I would hope would influence that. And is there this year's current permit increases factored into the increase of the possible tax rates?
Yes, is the short answer. We have projected historical growth in our future budget years. And so those numbers that you're quoting, the 1.8, 1.8, and 1, are in addition to what we see as just typical inflationary pressures, even considering the growth that you have seen in the last year.
The first part of your question was specific to MSI and the allotments thereof. And I'm going to suggest that no, we did not discuss that specifically. Which items specifically are you talking about?
The happening meeting playground was
And that was for the one located at Trinity?
71, which was largely developer funded. I think the majority was developer funded, about 220 of the proposed 400, but don't quote me exactly on that number. And MSI funded, but yes, if that is correct. And so that is a provincial grant. That would be the grant funding that you're referring to.
You can continue on if you'd like, Senior Manager.
Sure, we haven't reallocated that MSI money to any project at the moment, but we will definitely look at it first thing once capital budget's approved and we submit our project applications for MSI. We'll try to maximize the use of our MSI funding first. All right. So the Lacombe Police Service projects approval is for $65,000 in total. The Corporate Services Division has total projects of $390,000. Operations Planning and Services has $8.25 million in capital projects. And Community Services has $1.54 million in capital projects. The total combined operating impact for all the proposed capital projects is approximately $199,000 in the future. And that concludes the presentation of the capital budget. We are recommending that Council adopt the 2022 capital budget as presented, removing the DBR from the fire hall.
Thank you. With respect to the operations and planning services, mentioned that as just a placeholder item for the Public Works building. However, I was interested in the $186,000 impact to operating. And that is for what?
debenture payments. And $4 million of borrowing.
That one always gets me because in fact, the venture does come out of operating, not out of capital. Thank you. Councillor Conick.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'm just looking for clarification. The county plans replacement in Wolf Creek, was that? I can't remember. I'm looking at it. I don't think it's included next year. Is that correct? Or am I reading that wrong?
That is included for next year, and I believe that an adjustment was made to that capital project, an increase of $10,000 to bring it from 45 to 55,000. Is that correct?
That's not the one I was referring to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The actual one on Highway 12, not the little
The bridge.
pedestrian. The road bridge.
The replacement of the bridge. like I said. I believe that there was some additional information that was coming back from Director Thompson. That is a portion of the Capital Works Road Program, if I recall. And Director Thompson, can you just remind us of the remediation project that was planned for the bridge to extend its life and where the replacement lies in the 10-year capital plan?
Sure. So the some information was shared with council following the budget workshop, and so the Wolf Creek Bridge repair quote that we received put the repair about $46,000 to $55,000, which we estimated gains the bridge about 6 years worth of life, which is about $7,500 to $9,000 per year. And then the replacement cost of the bridge is $1.34 million. And that provides that bridge about 50 to 75 years worth of life, or about $18,000 to $26,000 per year. So certainly from a financial perspective, it makes, I guess it makes more sense to repair the bridge and extend the life based on the repair and not replace it. There are some trade-offs in that decision. That would being the bridge continues to be inspected on an 11-month cycle, and the inspector could identify new repairs based on the condition of the bridge at the time, which would add to the annual cost of extending the life of that bridge. And it also foregoes the benefit of having or incorporating a pedestrian crossing at that location in the short term, instead deferring it to when the bridge is replaced in the future. And so there's some trade-offs to consider in that decision as well.
Thank you for that. I know that there was some talks about including that pedestrian walkway or whatnot along that highway with it. That's I really like the idea. Simply because I think in wintertime and whatnot, you've got plows and snow and salt and whatnot being blown off, which will be right into the pedestrian walkway. And encouraging people to go directly beside the highway. I think that the way that the trails have been incorporated there now, I think it was anticipated there was going to be a separate bridge over Wolf Creek, given where the existing one terminates at. And I think that would be aesthetically pleasing and I think inherently safer as well. So I think that needs to be considered too. Yes, that happens to side with the fact that it's a pricey little structure for a very short bridge, but I just didn't really like it for those other reasons as well. Councillor Conick?
So I'm going to say, so we've allowed for the money to repair the bridge. And in the 10-year capital plan, the actual replacement of the bridge is not there at the moment, correct? Because I can't see it. So that's on, and that is that. As far as the actual replacement of the bridge goes, there's nothing allocated in the 10-year capital plan.
The replacement of the bridge should be allocated in the 10-year capital plan, Councillor Conick. I think it's allocated over a few years. starting in 2023, I believe. I will look at it right now.
Right. It's horrible, right?
Okay.
Director Thompson, does that appear under road growth program?
A portion of it does. The design of the bridge certainly is included in that item. I'm just currently looking at the subsequent years for that bridge replacement. Certainly by the time we get to the 10-year capital plan item, I'll have it available if council wanted to come back to that item.
Very good. I guess this isn't a general overview. Council is more in favor of the necessary remediation work to this bridge to extend it that the outright replacement, including the pedestrian bridge. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that the general consensus? I don't see a lot of lights coming on to shoot that, so we can move ahead with that in mind anyway. Keep that.
I want to just confirm that the remediation work to extend the life of that bridge, that is included in the 2022 capital project as it stands today, or no?
I did not initiate those changes on that item. So I would seek confirmation from Senior Manager McKinnon on whether that is included or not. I don't believe it would be, unless she initiated some changes.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that we are all clear. There is currently the remediation program is not budgeted for. The replacement was the original option. Since presenting that, we've done the cost benefit analysis, and it is a superior option financially to look at the extension of the existing project. To do so would require inclusion of approximately 50,000. Is that?
Yeah, $55,000 to see how we get it.
Great. Councilor Ross?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Maybe a simpler question. How many years are you going to get by the maintenance versus the replacement? Because if it's taking it beyond the 10 years, then it's not going to be in the 10-year capital plan, correct? Wouldn't that be a simpler way of addressing it? That with the improvement, you're taking it beyond the 10-year capital plan?
So in this case, Councilor Ross, between the inspector and our engineers, they have estimated the extension of life of that bridge is about 6 years. So at that point, we would need to be planning for either additional repairs that extend the life or the replacement of that bridge.
So sometimes this electronic stuff is difficult to hear. Was that 60? 60? 16. 6 years. Oh. I guess I had wishful thinking what I heard. I heard 16. Okay. Very good. Remediation work is good theoretically for 6 years, and then we'll wait and see after that. Hopefully get some more out of it, but who knows? Councillor Connick.
So again, I'm just trying to, so I'm looking at that particular project number 8,000. That's not replacement. Who's the design, blah, blah, blah. And then if you look at the rationale, the comments, road renewal 1.8, deep utility rehabilitation 1, and then road growth is 240,000. So of the 240,000, 60,000 is to repair the bridge, or is that design money, or and how much is for 76th Street Road up? I'm just trying to I want to be really clear on this, but I don't think. Be honest. Because if in the 10-year capital plan, the bridge replacement is there, are we sure that the repair work is included in this budget?
So the repair work is not included in this budget.
Okay, so we have to add.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. What's the next item that we're at? Chief Gowdy?
Just to, so that there's no oversight here. If you are passing the budget tonight, we would like to get specific direction on inclusion of that 55,000 from the 10-year capital plan or adjust accordingly. I am hearing that that is council's desire, but I'd like to just, I guess, confirm that that is the case.
I thought it was clear on it until you brought that up. To be perfectly honest with you. The work is going to be done one way or another. We're choosing to do the remediation work. So you're suggesting that is that an item that needs repair on the 10-year capital plan because we're going to be doing that work immediately. Is that correct?
Yes, but it will still appear, the replacement will still appear on the capital, the 10-year capital budget at the tail end. Unless we look to do some additional remediation life extension project. Right now, the replacement is shown, I believe, in 10. If we are receiving direction to do remediation work in 2022, that work will be pushed to the back end of the 10-year capital plan to another remediation type cycle. So right now, there is no budget for the remediation. There is budget in 23 and 24 for replacement. I believe that council would like to change that, but I like
That's exactly that. That change to be made, correct? Councillor Connick.
So then the motion, yeah, like as Councilor also just mentioned, then motion then would be to accept the budget as amended, and the only amended being the additional of the 50. As far as this 2022 capital budget is concerned.
Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Just a quick question then also to follow up on the remediation. What would be the funding for that? Where would that be coming from?
I didn't just think that.
Councillor Ross, did you have an additional question as well? No. We talked about a motion. I don't know if anybody ever actually made one, did we?
Go ahead.
I don't believe we have one on the books. Councillor Hibbs, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. That I move that council adopt the 2022 capital budget as amended, then that would be the correct wording because we have made some changes.
So as amended, please.
Anything additional? Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. Couldn't we just wait pass this budget to ensure that the numbers that we're all talking about tonight are in there as we had hoped? Because I
Definitely.
felt, I mean, I was just listening. There seemed to be some confusion.
Actually don't pass these things until well into the new year. So no, I don't think there's any harm in doing that. It's up to the wish of council. How would you like to proceed if you just have all of the costs and the I's dotted on the one that you choose to approve, and that would certainly be fine too. Chief Gotti?
I believe it would have been fine, but Councillor Hibbs has made a motion. And so they're not that. Pass or not.
Or rescind. Councillor Hibbs?
I think actually, if you look at our procedural bylaw, we actually have the ability to unanimously withdraw a motion from the floor. So that we would go that way then. And I think I can move that we, I don't know the exact wording, but withdraw the motion
On the floor.
on the floor.
Very good. Send Meg. Anything further? So with respect to Councillor Honick?
Well, I was gonna say, I'm fine with it, but passing it tonight. It's just So in respect to the procedure then, so it has to be 100% unanimous to pull up that procedural bylaw. Someone pull it up.
That's an interesting test. I didn't know. I'd step in and say, if the mover so saw fit to withdraw their own motion, that I would let that go in any event, but we'll see how it's bylaws if you prefer.
So I believe that probably the better mechanism would be to table the motion, but just attempt that instead of the Senate. That can happen, I believe, just by majority, whereas withdrawing, I believe is unanimous. Unanimous amendment.
I think that was in the desire was to have it available for the next meeting anyway, so tabling it to that date would be fine. In any event, we have a motion on the floor now, and that's the way we're going to do it for this one because this is ridiculous. With respect to motion, and just a majority will be fine if you so choose to defer the earlier motion or the motion. That's a capital budget approval that was on the floor. So all those in favor?
Yes.
The motion is to remove the motion for consideration of the budget at this meeting. In much simpler terms. All those in favor? Those opposed? 2, so noted. Connick and Ross opposed. We're going to discuss it next time. Let's move on to the 10-year capital plan, item 5.4, if we could, please.
Certainly. I will now present the updated draft of the 2022 to 2031 capital plan. Purpose of the capital plan is to outline the future capital requirements of the city of Lacombe based on council priorities and existing infrastructure maintenance requirements. The first year of the plan is the 2022 capital budget, which will prove to authorize capital expenditures. The remaining 9 years are for planning only and are not authorizing any expenditures. And this planning does exceed the provincial and federal requirements for planning for capital. The revised version of the capital plan includes a placeholder for reclamation and demolition in both 2026 and 2031 of $100,000 in each year, as well as the new water reservoir was moved out from 2025 to 2026. The capital expenditures are grouped by project based on division. The projects by division for the 2022 capital plan can be found in Appendix 1. The estimated capital expenditures represented in the plan is $79.7 million before inflation. And the spread of the total capital expenditures is shown in Appendix 2, 10-year capital expenditures. The estimated funding for the 2022-2031 capital plan are debentures, $12.3 million, grants, $31.3 million, reserve withdrawals of $33.3 million, and other sources of $2.8 million. The major projects considered within the 2022-2031 capital plan include the Public Works Building, total estimated cost $9 million, Roads Renewal Program, Capital Works from 2022 to 2031, total cost $28 million, Aquaplex facility upgrades in 2028 for $3 million, and the Fire Hall planning in 2023 and construction in 2024 for a total cost of $5 million. Fire ladder truck replacement, total cost of $1.7 million, and new reservoir and decommissioning of Pump House B, a total cost of $8 million. Debt funding is a major source of the capital funding for municipalities. The current interest rates are still favorable for financing construction or acquisition of long-lived assets. The tax rate due to the additional borrowing in the 2022 to 2031 plan is shown in Appendix 4. The City of Lacombe debt servicing includes tax and utility supported debt is also shown in Appendix 5. And there's a number of assumptions in the capital plan that are used as a basis for our planning. And as of this day, we are asking council to approve the 2022 to 2031 plan as presented and provided direction, or else provide direction for administration on how to proceed. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Chief Gowdy?
Just a procedure in there. Session. I have confirmed tabling, postponing, or withdrawing the motion all only require a majority of council. If you look to 614 sub 3, it says after a motion has been moved and has been stated as that is deemed in the possession of the council or committee and may only be withdrawn by majority consent of the members present and will not be recorded in the minutes. It is the city's previous procedural bylaw prior to last term that had unanimous requirement that the motion once presented during the last term's update. You consolidated those so they all have the same requirement of just a majority. So you were correct to move on. Apologies for that.
Then, Councilor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I think in previous term, I asked the same similar question. We have an aerial that we purchased that is basically the loan is up at the time of its lifetime. So we had a that is going to be purchased in 2023 and 4, if I recall, for $750,000. How is that going to be different than the aerial that is in a 10-year capital plan on number 4, the fire hall? Like, since the first one was maybe kind of a mistake of doing the aerial on such a ridiculous long term, are we repeating that with next this ladder truck? Or understand the question?
So you're questioning the purchase of?
Okay, the ladder truck is on the 10-year capital plan. That is being requested by the fire department 2023-24 for $750,000 is not on the capital plan. So why is it in two separate areas? I guess that's why I'm trying to say.
Thank you for that. That's a very interesting question. Do you have any insight as the reasoning why the bumper would have not have been included? It isn't under there. I've been informed.
Well, it's on two different categories. Why isn't it the same with the ladder truck? If it's on a. Anyways, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Chief Gowdy?
So the pumper is planned for 2023, 2024. 750,000. It's been divided 375,000 in 2023 and 375 in 2024. I believe that that's just due to the nature of these trucks, that they require half of the building the truck. Often they take 16 to 18 months to build, and then you pay the remainder upon delivery. And so the 750 is there, it's just spread across 2 years. And the final truck is 618 and then 1.1 in 2024 and 2025.
I guess that's okay. So then why isn't the pumper under the ladder truck on item 4? I guess is what I'm trying to say. Is it finance different, or am I just repeating a dumb question, I guess? Well,
So I believe that the answer that we look to sort of that $1 million as the projects to highlight under the major capital projects section, but haven't highlighted smaller projects.
so we're gonna balance this next ladder truck the same way we did the previous Bronto over 20 years, or are we gonna do it differently this time? You understand what I'm saying?
I do. We have not looked at exact loan terms for the projects out into the 10-year capital project. We do identify whether they're debenture borrowed, but we don't have the actual loan terms identified. Now, typically with municipal infrastructure, it's not quite the same as you might look at financing your own personal assets. With municipal finances, with your personal assets, it's you that's paying for it, whether it's today the person receiving benefit, you are the person paying the cost. With a municipal asset, often, one of the goals of municipal finance is to have those that benefit from that asset pay for that asset. And since people move in and out of town, especially with something that might have a 15 or 20-year lifespan, it actually does make sense to try to match the amortization period whenever possible to the useful life of that. So that the costs are also spread across all of the residents and businesses that are getting benefit from that. So we would typically look at longer term loans. The municipality is an excellent credit rating that allows you to get really, really low financing, not 0% like some dealerships used to offer, at least, but 1.6, I think, is about the number we're paying down.
Thank you for that, Chief Gowdy. Legislator Bellabona, did you have some information for someone? Certainly, not a problem. Councillor Connick?
Thank you, Mayor Christie. This motion is pretty straightforward. We're just accepting it as information, which is fine. Will we see this report again one more time just with the changes? Because if we move that bridge into 2031 even, then the 1.8% that we're projecting in 2023 should actually come down significantly, because that's part of 2023. So I'm just curious to see that number, what change that will be as well.
I don't actually think it would change it. Typically, the borrowing that's associated with a project isn't incurred until the year after. And so the impact for debt servicing is related to the debt borrowing that occurs, or sorry, 2024, be related to the debt borrowing that occurs in 2023. So you wouldn't actually see a reduction, see the reduction in the following year if you were to.
Okay, because now I'm confused, because 2024, there's nothing. So all the borrowing we're doing in 2023 is not reflected in 2024.
I just want to confirm that that is the case with the 10-year capital plan as well. I know it is with our capital expenditures, but Director or Senior Manager McKinnon, can you refute?
That's correct. So if we make a purchase in 2023, the borrowing, the servicing payments would begin in 2024. We would typically borrow near the end of the year when the project's complete, near the end of as much as we can in that year. And then the following year, we would make payments.
And so what you would be seeing there, Councillor Connick, with the lack of a impact in 2024 is that there's likely some loans that we know are maturing in 2024. And the impact of borrowing in 2023. So because of the retired loans that are retired in 2023, new costs do come on in 2023, but they're balanced by those retiring loans. And we try to do that whenever.
I had read those graphs completely wrong. So good, thank you.
Does anyone have anything further?
I think Marcus is just kind of curious. Obviously, we have excellent interest rates now. How soon do you, if you lock in your rates, how soon do you have to use that specific purpose of that loan? Like you would think they're obviously going to go up. Like if we're going to do a public works there in 2023, are we going to do it before 2023? Because we're just reviewing it, are we not? But anyways, I guess I was just a curious question: is how soon do you have to like if you that rate, which obviously it's record lows, how soon do you have to use it?
Chief County?
That is an interesting question. And so I'm going to have to ask Director, Senior Manager McKinnon to say, can you go to the Alberta Capital Finance Authority after passing a borrowing bylaw, but before incurring cost and make a call on a loan that you have no intent to spend for, say, 2 years?
I would have to look into that to confirm, but I know at the city of Red Deer with the Canada Winter Games, they did borrow at the front of the project, not the end of the project, for the W.H. Harris in particular, but that project was done within a year. So it was a tight time frame, but I cannot say that we can borrow in advance for a capital project. Part of the borrowing requirements are to prove the useful life of the project. So if you haven't built the asset or don't have immediate plans to build it, they would probably come back and ask more questions.
Councillor Ross?
Thank you. Thank you, Marcus. What if you have loans and reserves to cover that as a guarantee? Is that it's straight so minuscule, but I was just it would on the amount borrowed that does add up over the 20-30 years.
Regardless of what I expect, there are some fairly stringent rules outlining this in the Alberta Finance Authority. And perhaps we could have administration bring back that information because it is a very good point. And then we will know. Thank you. I think we can proceed.
So what would you like to do with the capital plan, 10-year plan tonight?
This is the most, this report's information. I don't know what it's asking.
That's about it.
That would maybe then that we accept the yeah, accept this report as information.
Anyone have any additional input before we vote? All those in favor? I see none opposed. Thank you. So on to the operating budget and 3-year operating budget, please.
On August 16th, 2021, Council provided direction to administration to prepare a 2022 budget with a 2.7% tax rate increase and a 1% paving tax. So the proposed 22 budget was including a 2.7% tax rate increase, 1% paving tax, and a 2.7% utility rate increase. These increases fall within the Alberta Consumer Price Index limits set by council policies for compensation and annual budget and taxation. The first draft of the operating budget was presented to council on October 25th. The budget details were reviewed by department during the November 8th and 9th budget workshops. The increase in the operating budget and expenses since this time is approximately $80,000. These changes are the result of finalizing some water and wastewater utility usage projections, adjusting benefits to actual projections, and other adjustments from feedback obtained during the budget workshops. In summary, the changes made to revenues were an increase of $79,971, $81,000 of that results from revised water projections for the water and wastewater utilities, and transfer operating change as a result of administration fees being adjusted for utilities and police. On the expenditure side, changes made since the budget workshop include elimination of a budget line for council taxes, the elimination or reduction of benefits for police, WCB, and life insurance as a result of an error we had in Questica budget software, and decrease to transfer from other operating as a result of a reduction of admin fees and the reducing FCSS contribution for the strategic plan. As also there was an offset to tax supported utility reserves above an increase in transfer to reserves of $45,000 net. The increases in expenditures were $12,582 increase to reflect debenture costs for utility borrowing in 2021, an increase of $101,000 for water purchase for resale and wastewater increases from revised volume and commission rates, and increases in insurance, IT for LPS cloud storage and council microphone and voting system, and reduced membership fees as advised. A comparison of the total budget changes by major expense and revenue category is shown in Appendix 1. The 3-year plan is shown in Appendix 2, and this is a financial plan for the years 2022 to 2024. Council, of course, must adopt the first year in the financial plan as the operating budget, which is 2022, and the following 2 years are for information only. The 3-year plan aligns with provincial and federal requirements for multi-year financial planning. In the operating budget, there are 3 major revenue increases. The municipal tax rate increased by 2.7% for taxes, as well as penalties increased based on actuals. Franchise fees increased by $275,000, taking into account adjustments for the median of comparable municipalities, as well as projected usage. And goods and services revenue is increased by over $600,000 compared to 2021 due to utility rate increases of 2.7%, as well as the revenue for facility rentals and programming resuming to pre-COVID budget levels. Expenses have increased by $1.4 million from 2021 revised budget. These 3 major categories of expenditure increases include personnel, community grants, and transfers to reserves. Personnel has increased by $844,000. The city's compensation policy ties the staff cost of living allowance to Alberta Consumer Price Index as of July 1st. Administration recommends a 2.2% COLA. In 2021, we also did a salary survey for council and staff to review compensation of 11 comparable municipalities. As a result of that, the council remuneration expense policy was amended and salary adjustments have been included for council in budget. And for staff, an adjustment to the city's salary bands to reflect median of comparable municipalities has also been adjusted in the 22 proposed budget. Benefit costs have also risen due to CPP, deductibles, health premiums, short-term disability, and life insurance increases. Appendix 3 shows a comparison of the departmental wages and benefit budget in 2022 compared to 2021. Personnel changes also include a new community standards ambassador position under the bylaw enforcement department. And administration also recommends increasing 3 part-time positions to full-time status for an IT technician, administrative assistant in finance, and solid waste operator position. Community groups is another area of increase over 2021. Appendix 4 shows a comparison of the grants to organizations requested for 2022 compared to 2021. Community groups presented to council on September 27th and October 4th, and their requests have been included in this proposed 2022 operating budget, with the exception of the $10,000 request for FCSS and their strategic plan. That has been excluded. The other major increase in expenditure is a tax-supported reserve contribution of $615,000 increase. The proposed transfers to tax-supported reserves is increased by approximately $615,000, and $150,000 of this increase is due to the transfer to the roads reserve as a result of a 1% special paving tax. The other significant increase is the transfer to the general capital reserve, which is the main funding source for many capital projects identified in Macomb's 10-year capital plan. Appendix 5 shows a comparison of the transfers to reserves in 2022 versus 2024 or 2021 budget. Utility funded operations include water, wastewater, and solid waste. The proposed 2022 budget includes a 2.7% increase in user fees for water. The water rates will increase from $2.56 per cubic meter in 2021 to $2.63 per cubic meter in 2022. The flat utility rate will also increase from $27.82 per month to $28.57 per month for water on all active accounts. On the expenditure side, the 2022 water budget includes a projected increase in water purchases for resale and contracted services for data analyst and a Lacombe water loss assessment study. The wastewater budget also includes a 2.7% increase in user fees. The wastewater rates will increase from $2.75 per cubic meter in 2021 to $2.82 per cubic meter in 2022. The flat utility rate will increase from $20.79 to $21.35 per month on active accounts. For solid waste, the flat monthly rates will also increase by 2.7%. On the expenditure side, the solid waste operator position is proposed to increase from casual to full-time. The transfers for utility reserves are budgeted at $67,000 lower than 2021 as a result of the updated revenue and expenditure budgets. Borrowing. The long-term borrowing capacity of the City of Lacombe remains strong as the city is at less than 60% of its municipal debt limit and 45% of its MGA debt limit. The current debt servicing is only at 31% of the municipal limit or 23% of the MGA debt limit. The cost of borrowing is rising slightly, and with annual servicing costs for $1 million today is $60,000, $543 per year for a 25-year loan, or $54,920 per year for a 30-year loan. In conclusion, administration is recommending that council deliberates and potentially adopts the 2022 operating budget as presented and receives the 2022 to 2024 year financial plan as information. If there are any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them.
Thank you. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. If the dispatch contract shifts from Red Deer Emergency Services to Lacombe Police Service, is that just going to be an in and an out instead of an expense to Red Deer Emergency Services? Would that just be a revenue generated for the police service? Because the contract, I think, is up within a year, if I recall.
I'm not aware of any proposed project to shift dispatch services out of Red Deer into the City of Lacombe.
We had discussed for fire.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about the police. I'm sorry, that's my misunderstanding. If it were to be brought into the fire, that would be a bigger investigation, and we'll have to look at the costs. So it would be some staffing costs and equipment costs for us to take on that work. And not to say that it can't happen, but I think we would bring those costs to you and make a decision.
Councillor Hibbs?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Yeah, so I have a couple questions. First of all, during the workshop, we had reduced 5 items, and I could only find reference to one of those. So I'm just going to list them all. If you could just confirm that they in fact were incorporated. So under Department 11, I have RRSP for 8,220. That was removed.
Yes.
Under Department 12, Red Deer River Municipal User Group, whatever, 3560. That was removed. Department 61, PAMS for 4432. That was removed.
Yes.
Department 51, FCSS, that was the 10,000. That was removed.
Yes.
Department 62, the public participation program, 24,750.
Yes, that was, yeah.
Just because that's a total of like almost 51,000, and it's really hard for me to find that in here, and so I just want to verify. And then on the opposing side, we made the one addition in Department 11 of 1,000. Yes.
Correct.
But I do want to be very clear then that almost 51,000 was removed.
Yes.
Okay.
And many of those items, some of them hit the goods and services line where we actually incurred a $30,000 increase as a result of AMA revised projections. So we have some increases that have offset some of those decreases.
Okay, I was very surprised given those reductions and then turning out significant additions. So, and then another question, if that's okay, Mayor Creasy, in regards to Department 75, that's the department that has the concession, Michener, et cetera, et cetera. So the revenues for that, off the top of my head, I can't recall now, but is the revenue projections in that taking into account the kiosk as well as a concession operator, or one or the other, or how does that work that?
We did adjust that line from 15,000 to 10,000, but I'll let Director Lapointe answer that question.
Sorry, for the moment, that would actually just include the ice cream operator. So that does not include any revenue for any potential concession operator that would operate the Michener concession for us.
And can I ask the rationale then from administration as to why that change? So that it's not both together, but just one as opposed to both?
I think at this point, we're not sure if we're actually going to secure an operator for the concession. And so this is actually confirmed revenue at this point for 2022.
That's not bad.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. So in respect to Councillor Hibbs' comments, is there a way we could see if those decreases have been offset by just something you mentioned in goods and services? And can we shut it next time so we're not guessing? Because I too was looking for those decreases, so it doesn't make mention of that here. Further, did we, maybe I'm wrong, but did we not get rid of the community standards ambassador position, or no? And or did we agree to keep that in?
Discuss it again.
Okay, so, but has that change been reflected in here then? And so where is that?
In fairness to administration, that change to be included at this point in time.
Sorry, wasn't it budgeted for?
It is, still is.
It remains budgeted for.
Yeah, it has been included. But as council, we said that we were going to discuss it again as to that.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Department 11, individual council benefits, is that a individual decision as our benefits are cost shared with the city, or does that affect the budget of the decision, or can we individually be included in what is offered to city staff as benefits? I'm just,
Certainly a fair question, given that you weren't at that, able to make that day, and it is either there and then it is not on an individual basis. And yes, of course, there's a cost with it, both for, in this case, the employee as the elected position and for the city. Chief Gowdy?
It is, you're correct. It's our procurement of those options are on a group basis. So you would be treated as a group. However, if your wife, say, had benefits that you preferred and that cover you, you would be able to opt out of the city program, the same as employees would if covered by a different plan. So there is the option for individual tailoring, but certainly going out to procure those options would be done on a group basis.
so if that was to change to individual, would that be a procedural thing? That is that, or if we individually wanted it, or I understand now, sorry, my absence, but it was discussed as a group to not, I know this was, I think prior to this term, we briefly discussed it, so we did not include benefits, but then I guess did we each really, we just kind of, all the respect for me, we just that the benefits, our benefits really were, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
There certainly was a package that was forwarded to us for our perusal, and it was turned down by council at that time under the suggestion that the value just was not really there. I think when we discussed our new mansion, I think it came at that time quite extensively, if memory serves me correctly. Councilors Connick and Hibbs were both in on those as well. And when the benefits were analyzed for the cost, we just didn't think that it was in the best interest to continue with them, or to implement them rather. Councillor Connick, is that your recollection? There's benefits that you would have preferred were included? So there was a couple of items on here for myself as well. One of them was the ambassador program. I too was struggling with the implementation of that. A much more significant financial one. We had discussed one of our sub-services, and I just wanted to check with Chief Gowdy if we okay to talk about insurance-related items with respect to the police service. Not for individual members, but more of a group plan approach, specifically insurance.
Senior Manager McKinnon is going to fill us in on the further investigation we have done there, because actually we were a little bit, there's some it's required. And so Senior Manager McKinnon, if you could give us the details, that would be great.
For sure. When we went through the budget workshops, we had indicated that there was an increase in life insurance for police of approximately $100,000. That was incorrect. We spent the next day looking through our Questica system, and the way that insurance had been applied was to multiple departments, not just police. So in reality, after we have gone through and done the fine-tuned details, the cost of life insurance for police is around $22,000 per year. And there is a reduction in the life insurance that used to be included in for the rest of the city employees, about $8,000. So the net increase is about $14,000 to the city of Lacombe for police and life insurance in 2022 budget.
That's one, because you're in for a 20-minute spiel for me over the $100,000 increase of how we could go about mitigating that. So that's wonderful to hear. Appreciate that.
Sorry for the error.
No. And then I'm finding it was substantially more. Thank you for that. And the other one was with respect to snow removal. And I just wanted to clarify a couple of items that we had brought up during the planning session. The first one was the impression of this is some new service used to remove snow from the streets, and it was ceased because of no location where to put the snow. And it was seen as unacceptable to put it beside the creek for environmental reasons. So that's one item that is a new service. And I see it as probably one of the most basic services the road maintenance within the municipality offers. So we said that we would discuss it further. And I personally think that it's some there that allocate some $900,000 to a snow storage facility, choose to implement that plan, and then have no way to utilize the transportation of the snow to it. So it just seems very odd to me, and for all the reasons that we've went through again and again, the lengthy list of complaints that are handled by our staff each and every year for clearing of snow in front of walkways and driveways and stuff that perhaps weren't just to someone's liking, that type of thing, all the way through to spring and summer with the removal sand and pea gravel and whatnot from people's lawns. So lots of reasons for it, and I fully expect this is an item that is going to be forced upon us in relatively short order. Let's at least embark on trying this system, and in order to do so, we need to allocate this $70,000 to transportation of snow to it. So something that I would like to have us consider, because I think it's important to people in our community, not just aesthetically, but for safety reasons. And so we should have staff who field all the calls, which accounts for the vast majority of the complaints and whatnot that we get throughout the year. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. Help me out here. Are you proposing that we add $70,000 to this budget? And how would
that is the amount that was given by administration in order to implement this plan throughout the city. I guess one of the areas for me, as much as I like the idea of the ambassador one, I see that as a very nice to have, whereas road maintenance to me is one of our core services, as I said. So that's certainly where I would consider a movement in that resources that account for approximately half, or just slightly over half of it. Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Although I am maybe new here and then the $900,000 allocation for snow removal site, I still, after living in this community for this many years, I feel the snow removal is currently adequate, and I like the sentiment, and I don't see a need to increase funding to try and take away a service later if we don't enjoy it.
Thank you for that, and certainly a fair comment. Just so you appreciate how it works now. We do pay crews to windrow the snow off to the side, and then another crew or an additional crews to remove the snow in front of people's driveways and sidewalks and whatnot to get it out of the way. And again, put up with the issues in the spring with with water backup and that type of situation. We do, however, make a few special allocations for, I'm going to call them problem areas in the city, whereby they actually get snow removal now. And I'm not necessarily sure that's very equitable amongst neighbors when one area gets it and one does not. But that's a separate issue.
Hey, Mayor Christie, yeah, so in respect of your comments, we do snow removal on arterial roads and some roads. And so the snow dump, I mean, there's a lot of snow that we still do remove and private contractors remove. And so, I too, we chatted about this before as well, and yeah, I mean, I don't think we necessarily have to do that 7,000 this year. I see that in the forecasting a fairly significant snow dump this year, but yeah, I'm one of those homeowners. Come spring, I make sure I shovel it all off onto the street so I don't get that gravel on my lawn. Yeah, extra work for me, I guess. Yeah, at this time, I don't see it as being something we should be adding.
Councillor Gibbs.
Yeah, I mean, I had hoped that some of our reductions could possibly have potentially absorbed some of that cost, or, you know, whatever the case may be. However, unfortunately, we were presented with a budget that with the updates actually we had seen. So I will echo the sentiment that definitely not this budget. I would potentially be in favor of this if we phase it in. So not an all in at one time, is just to maybe expand the service a little bit, maybe every year or something like that. But again, I'm loath to support it this year with this budget.
Thank you. And that was certainly discussed at our previous meeting as well. Have some sort of a phase in. Option. I don't know that was particularly well received by administration. I was told that was not exactly an easy thing to implement. Chief Gowdy, could you expand on that?
So the issue that you would potentially have is that a lot of the arterial roadways, the priority 1s and 2s right now, are the areas where snow removal is occurring. And the other areas where there's still a desire for, or sorry, where the snow isn't being removed, but it is being windrowed, are actually in your residential areas, priority 3 areas. So if you limit it to your priority 1 and priority 2 areas, you probably won't see significant increases in the amount of snow removed within the community. I would say nearly zero. You know, I'm sure someone can find some that it's a little bit, but it would have very, very little impact actually.
So I'm guessing with the overwhelming show of support, we can eliminate this item. Councillor Ross?
Like you said, I understand the desire for those that take in the complaints, because who would rather have less complaints, obviously. But I guess my concern is for this 12 to 18 months is inflation. And I would hope with I think our community's done tremendously well. It's positive with amount of the construction. I know in my area, the Laban apartment building has started. That's completion for next fall. I think there's a lot of wonderful positive things. I'd just like to see some of the things come through. I think we have that $70,000. I don't know the exact number, but that would a couple of the significant capital projects we have in 2023. So I'd just kind of like to, I'm a little nervous of the inflation. I see it middle to high. I think this year's budget is, I think, going to be rather easy compared to next year. Just my gut feeling. So I just like to wait one more year. Thank you.
First, it was easy. You weren't there. No, I don't. You know, I'm just joking about that. No, I appreciate everybody discussing it. I think the public will receive that well. Oddly enough, the individual that does not see snow And that's it. I would like to see that there's a couple other counselors that actually do receive windrows in their yard. And they are not supportive of it. So administration has told me that we can have all the complaints and they put up with it. They put up with it too, so it's not a big deal. So where are we at now? Councillor Conick.
So given that we're getting the capital budget back, I'm wondering if we shouldn't table this for next meeting too. Since there's any slight changes, just some further clarification. I don't know, unless there's an appetite to pass it now, but I see our CEO would rather we pass it tonight. But
But you're not bringing forth a motion, okay? That's it.
All the presentations, they were, other than the FCSS changed, all the rest were passed as presented.
The next organizations, is that?
Yes.
I believe that is the case. Senior Manager McKinnon, is that?
That's
accurate?
correct.
The agency request increases and so forth.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Councillor Conick?
so I would so move that council table the 2022 operating budget until the following meeting on December the 6th.
Just like.
Hopefully, piling on all this information for the next meeting, there'll be a relatively fast approval portion, but if that's the way that we'd like to go, all those in favor? Those opposed? As good. And then Senior Manager McKinnon, item 5.6, the third quarter financial report, please.
This report shows the revenue and expenses for the three quarters of 2021, January to September. Administration has analyzed the revenues and expenditures by fund category, and currently the city is in a favorable position, projecting an operating surplus. The year-to-date surplus is 2.4 million, with a year-end projection close to $1 million surplus. Revenues are down this year by about $370,000 year-to-date. And this can be explained by $250,000 worth of shortfall in revenue recreation fees and fine revenue shortfalls. On the expenditure side, there's a 2.4 million year-to-date surplus. There's some large timing differences that add up to about $1.2 million for school requisitions that were budgeted but not yet paid until October. And the year-to-date personnel variance is a $647,000 surplus. This is explained by facility closures during the first 6 months of 2021 and short-term disability leaves. At the end of the year, there will still be a large surplus in personnel, although somewhat reduced by the year-end payouts for vacation and banked time. The cost of services surplus of $410,000 can be attributed to COVID-19 restrictions and the closures of facilities. There's a large year-to-date surplus in wastewater utility due to wastewater commission fees having a favorable variance of close to $300,000. This year-end surplus will result in a transfer to the wastewater reserve. The budget numbers for 2022 have been carefully reviewed and adjusted for areas where expenditure trends are expected to continue. There has been an unusual year due to COVID-19 restrictions and shutdowns, resulting in overall lower expenditures that can be expected when the city is full back into swing next year. The next variance report will be the final year-end variance as per the audit presentation in April 2022. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have on the year-to-date variance.
Thank you, Manager McKinnon. I was just curious with respect to the utilities, I say that we're $72,000 under budget. Was that just coincidence? It was the same amount as for the snow removal or no?
I don't know. Please.
Any questions, anyone? Any motions? Surely we can at least receive this as information, can we not? That's it.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I move that council accepts this report as information.
Thank you. Councillor Conick, was that for the same reason? Thank you. All those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Chief Cowdy, have a report for us?
I do. We have not finalized since I last presented our planning and development method of this. Have a new one, so the numbers are the same as in my previous report. I have no purchases to report that were in excess of $1 million, but I believe we have finalized or in the final stages of finalizing lease with the ice cream kiosk at Missioner Park. That's 5+5 as an extension as directed by council, which would be in excess of the 5-year commitment, which requires disclosure under the procurement policy. So you can learn that. And beyond that, I have nothing significant to report since our last meeting on the 8th.
Thank you. Move into council minutes. It was from Premier Kenny, dated November 3rd. Sure, it's addressed to me, but in fact, it mentioned service from councillors as well. So I thought it was appropriate that we in the record. Assuming there's not really any questions. It or of it. And then the City of Lacombe letter for special resolution dated November 11th. I guess just publicly that was decided not to be brought forward by the region municipality of Athabasca at the direction of the AUMA board. They plan on taking it up at a little different venue through the prospectus in the spring. That's where that stands. And then 6.3, the commission board committee reports and minutes. Coleman District Recreation Parks and Culture from September 21st. Any questions? Minutes? And then the MPC update from October 6th. And that's the right side, so we'll continue through to councillor reports. To be clear, I realize that we're at Edmonton AUMA for the majority of 1 week. With thanks to our legislative coordinator, Bella Bono. Thank you for putting a report together for myself. Any questions or concerns? Councillor Dallas, you're next.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. The only items I have on there are the sessions attended. Future committee meetings are coming up this week.
Thank you. Councillor Hibbs. Councillor Ross, Councillor Gullickson, Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. My report is there. I will elaborate on the commission meeting, my next report.
Thank you. I think that is it for reports and information. Don't see any lights on. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I move that we accept the information as information, or the reports and minutes as information.
Thank you. Procedural question for Chief Patton. With proposed new format, the name for the consent agenda, did that include council reports as well or no?
Yes, it will.
So I guess that is fair warning for the future. Should anyone have any items that they want to make special note of or mention, then that item would have to be removed from the consent. That's fair enough. Thank you. I was going to say, we didn't vote yet. Exactly. So with respect to the information, reports and whatnot, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. On to the adoption of the minutes from November 8th. That's on the list. Anybody see any errors or omissions there? Councillor Hibbs.
I saw no errors, so I would move that we adopt them as presented.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything? Good. All those in favor? That is unanimous as well. Thank you. So if you go down to the bottom of your agenda, our first joint meeting with the Penn Memorial Center starts at 9 a.m. on December the 1st. If you can add, make sure that's in your agendas or in your calendars rather. And then the December 6th, the regular council meeting. And once again, at the new time of 5:30 p.m. here in this room. And then into the new year. So everybody can mess up that check time. 2022, the first meeting is January 10th. On Monday there, and that is a regular council meeting as well. Once again at 5:30 p.m. I've had a change for everyone watching at home. Are there any items that I have overlooked from the agenda? Councillor Hoekstra?
I just move that we move in camera.
Thank you. Time 7:21. All those in favor?